WheelchairTraveling.com presents Montreal in Quebec, Canada. Montreal is an old coastal city with history dating back to the French and British colonization. Statues around the city commemorate this time. I recommend the statue of Montreal's founder, where you can see Robert the Bubble Wizard. He brings out your inner child. Old Montreal is where you can see the historic buildings. The majority of buildings in Old Montreal are not wheelchair friendly. But the surrounding areas are much more modern, but not necessarily 100% accessible. Accessibility is an afterthought in Montreal, if it exists at all, and limiting for both power and manual wheelchairs. I mean, really, a wooden ramp wasn't possible here? The biggest challenge for manual chairs are the many hills in the city. Though there are a couple of areas that are relatively flat. One such area is the bike path that runs along the water in the Old Port. There's even an accessible restroom. Wheeling around the city also has other challenges. Sidewalk ramps are common, but not everywhere. And sometimes the transition is rough. Pedestrian islands are not accessible, which is quite dangerous. Barrier-free shops and restaurants were hard to find. Often, access would be blocked by at least one step. It seemed like 5% of restaurants were step-free. Sometimes I would be searching for an hour or more, but there are a few places that are accessible, and I'm sure in time more will create access. Indoor malls and shopping areas were accessible, including the restroom. The Palace of Congress is actually a convention center and station for the underground train. It has a few shops and eateries, as well as restrooms and automatic doors. Every traveler needs to be able to get around. Even power chairs will need to use transportation at some point. A few wheelchair-accessible taxi options do exist. Buses are ramped, but can cause headaches if the ramp is in the back. The driver doesn't know how to operate the ramp, or just doesn't want to, or it's snowing too heavily. Otherwise, there are trains that run underground, as well as ground level. The underground train runs to local spots, but only a few are accessible, permitting that the elevator is working. Amtrak and Via Rail are the ground trains, and both are doing a good job of making access possible. Nothing is perfect, though. Of course, I took lots of photos and explored all I could. Churches are all over the place, so you need to be selective. There were definitely some access surprises. Like at this church. Here's the front door. Next to it is the ramp, but to access it is way down here. the Notre-Dame Basilica of Montreal is something to see. If only just for the architecture and stained glass windows. There is a ramp to get inside, as well as another to get to the smaller chapel in the back, but that's it for access. Remember that bubble wizard I was talking about? Well, he hangs out right in front. There are some lovely museums, of course, a planetarium, biodome, casino, but my choice would be a hockey game at the largest NHL stadium. If you don't like sports, that's one thing, but if you do, plan for a game. And if you love the outdoors, visit the Montreal Botanical Garden. This is easily a half-day, if not a full-day attraction. The grounds have been assessed for access, and the most accessible route is marked by a green dot. The green dot will even lead you into specific gardens. The Chinese garden had the least access, but there was some. The Japanese garden had automatic doors. There are many faces to the Montreal Botanical Garden to explore. I took so many pictures. I spent a while taking pictures of just this tree alone. So vibrant. And I would have spent more time too if I had it. If you get tired, there is a wheelchair accessible shuttle with multiple stops around the property. Don't forget to check out the Bug Museum and all the greenhouses too. Mount Royal is the central gem of Montreal. A couple of overlooks exist along the road for views of the city. Also on Mount Royal is a cemetery that is just as famous for its residents as it is for its location. Many locals come here to exercise or just to get away. I'm glad I went to Montreal. I do think it is a beautiful city with friendly people, at least those I met. And it's not to say that you can't access the city, but for me to return, the city of Montreal needs to improve transportation and access to restaurants. People need to be able to get around and eat. It's as simple as that.